Greetings and salutations. My name is Marcos. It is currently Friday, February 20th, 2026, and something crazy has happened in the realm of PlayStation and video games. So let's talk about it. So yesterday, Bloomberg published an article written by Jason Schreier, basically saying that Sony is shutting down Bluepoint Games, people who made Demon's Souls remake for PS5, Shadow of the Colossus remake for PS4. They also made the Uncharted Drake collection, the Nathan Drake collection on PS4. They also ported Gravity Rush from PS Vita to PS4, which was awesome. Port from that. I wouldn't even call it a port. I'd call it like a remaster. I think that's what they call it. They've also ported Flower from PS3 to PS4 and Vita. I got their whole careers, their game website up right now. They've also done Titanfall for Xbox 360, which is kind of left field for them, specifically as a PlayStation like mainline developer, which they were never really bought by PlayStation until 2021. They got courted in-house, but before that they were making ports for games like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, the PS3 game. They ported that to Vita. They also did a Metal Gear Solid HD collection for PS3 and Xbox 360. They've done an Eco and Shadow of the Colossus HD collection for PS3. They've also made the God of War collection for PS3 and Blast Factor, which is an original title. Crazy enough that this is one of the first, I think maybe the first digital PSN game available for the PS3. It's kind of reminiscent of like games from like Housemarque, like Super Stardust Delta and stuff like that. Just a little bit under budget, not under budget, but like Temu Housemarque for the Blast Factor, their original game for PS3. But everything after that was God of War collection PS3. A lot of collections from PS2 games brought over to PS3, and then PS3 games brought over to PS4 with Flower, Gravity Rush, Nathan Drake collection, Shadow of the Colossus, a whole freaking remake from the ground up from PS2 to PS4. Now, if you compare those two games side by side, just look at the potential of what Bluepoint was capable of, and then with the Demon's Souls remake on PS5, that is still said to be believed as like one of the best PS5 games, and that was there on launch. And Sony bought Bluepoint after Demon's Souls remake, and so Sony bought Bluepoint Games after the Demon's Souls remake on launch day of PS5. I think they were then put on as side developing God of War Ragnarok with Sony Santa Monica, and then it is said to believe that Bluepoint Games, after shipping God of War Ragnarok with Santa Monica, was put on a live service God of War title. Completely left field for Bluepoint Games as a master of the remaster, which is the title of a video that I want to people to check out if they're watching this, because it basically explains, and it's advertising Shadow of the Colossus for PS4 when that was originally coming out and ramping up for like advertisements and stuff. But they were basically saying like, yeah, we're very faithful to the original game. We're doing side by side. We're getting the original code. Like, we care, basically, is the Bluepoint mantra. And so for a PlayStation to have just announced a God of War trilogy remake and then closing or shutting down the team that would make the most amount of sense to be doing that trilogy remake is just befuddling to me, to say the least. Maybe that's Santa Monica is in-house creating the trilogy remake. We know that Cory Balrog, I'm sorry, I'm bad at explaining or pronouncing that name. Cory Balrog, I know that he's been directing his own thing, which, if that's also God of War, that's really underwhelming and kind of lame. because like, can Sony Santa Monica do anything other than God of War at this point? Like, new ideas are cool, you know what I'm saying? Naughty Dog has been reiterating on it on The Last of Us for a bit now, and that's kind of getting old, but we know that Intergalactic is in sight, in the tunnel vision, you know what I'm saying? We see Intergalactic's controversial first reveal trailer, but that was something new, you know what I'm saying? Sony Santa Monica has only done God of War since Kinetica on the PS2, and if they're gonna keep doing that, obviously they've reinvented on the God of War formula with the over-the-shoulder sad dad simulator type of vibe, copying something similar to a Naughty Dog's Last of Us. But in regards to the action-based, you know, trilogy of PS2, PS3 games, like, Bluepoint Games made the most amount of sense. And seeing as how that they've made the God of War collection on PS3, they're very familiar with those games in particular, and they know what ticks for those types of games, bringing them from PS2 to PS3. It just doesn't make sense for them to shut down a studio that, I mean, let's think about it like this though. After they've been bought by Sony, it is now a part of the PlayStation family, as they quote Bluepoint Games is. And after they ship God of War Ragnarok, they put them on a live service God of War game, another God of War title, which makes like zero sense to me because of their master of the remaster, you know, formula of staying true to the formulas of, you know, the games prior to their up-res or their from the ground up remake. So I don't know where I'm going at with this, but I'm just like confused is all. Like, PlayStation, what are you thinking? Because Bluepoint knows God of War 1, 2. I'm not sure who made the God of War 3 remaster on PS4. I don't think it was Bluepoint, because I'm looking through the career in their game section and that's not showing up. However, I'm sure that they would take the God of War 3 from PS3, they would take the 3 remaster on PS4, and they would try and do, from the ground up, a very faithful recreation of one of the two. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they would be the most willing to make a great product in this trilogy remake that is said to be far off in advance. I think this is troubling for that project, to say the least, knowing now that it's not going to be on Bluepoint, you know, not going to be a Bluepoint joint. And so I'm kind of bummed, because I was really looking forward to that trilogy remake, whatever that might have been. I am now fearful of what the potential of that has. You know, it could be just having the God of War, you know, the 1, 2, and 3 be the identity of the over-the-shoulder, you know, sad dad simulator from PS4 and Ragnarok on PS5. That identity just brought back to that, just having like a coat of paint of the 1, 2, and 3, but, you know, enforcing narrative when it really shouldn't be about that. It should be about, you know, the character-based action combat with the cool, you know, upgrades and the crazy boss battles and the QTEs and the spectacle of it all, rather than the fucking Atreus shit and the narrative. And I'm not saying that all of that's bad. I loved PS4's God of War 2018. No matter how much they tried to make certain characters, you know, tick for the audience. I haven't played Ragnarok. I know that's kind of divisive. You know, some people are rewriting their opinions about that game in a more negative outlook, but for me, it's just troubling, to say the least, about what PlayStation as a business or a brand has to offer after doing something like shuttering one of their best teams, in my opinion. You know, there was this rumor about how Bluepoint was not mad about like having to remaster or remake certain games, but they were ambitious in trying to do their own thing. Like Blast Factor back in the day of 2006, like that was their only original game other than their Metal Gear Solid collections, their God of War collections, their Nathan Drake collections, the Port of Gravity Rush, the Shadow of Colossus remake, the Demon Souls remake. And it just proves to me now that stating those games, like, this is what you guys do. The master of the remaster. I will keep nailing that nail into the wall with this hammer that I theoretically, metaphorically have. But I don't know. I just think that there was so much potential of what PlayStation and Bluepoint could have done with their previous IP and with their history. And there was rumblings of a Legend of Dragoon remake. There was rumblings of there could have been Resistance, there could have been Killzone stuff. What was Infamous being done? I know Sucker Punch wanted to do that internally. I know they don't specifically want to do that, but if it had to be done, they would want to do it themselves. What about Sly? I know that Sanzaru Games got Sly of Thieves in Time. I know that was a PS3 title that Sucker Punch threw them a bone or whatever happened. They made their interpretation of Sly, which brought the series forward. I would have loved if Bluepoint maybe got their chance at Sly. Something like that, I'm not trying to say that these particular things would have worked for Bluepoint Games, but just seeing the resume that they have, it just makes sense that you would throw another remake or remaster or a God of War trilogy remake from the ground up for PS5. The PS2 games plus the PS3 game would look fantastic on a PS5 screen with the Bluepoint, just the Bluepoint effect. I don't know. Just look at Demon Souls on PS3 and Demon Souls on PS5. Look at the Shadow of the Colossus remake on PS4 compared to the PS2 original. Shame on you, PlayStation. I'm not really sure. Maybe there was some type of retaliation with Bluepoint on like not wanting to do the live service God of War game, and their game just got canceled, in quotes. This game was never really shown off or announced, so this was a rumor that was been throwing around for a minute. And funny enough, Bloomberg's own Jason Schreier kind of threw that article on us last year, saying that they're in early 2025 that Bluepoint's game was canceled and that it was a live service God of War game, which doesn't really make sense for the brand either. Like, God of War is a single player game, and it always has been, other than the Ascension side game, which really wasn't well received. So I don't know what PlayStation was thinking with this live service push, and to include Bluepoint in it all. it's just like, it's funny at this point, and it's kind of making me not less of a fan, but have less faith in the higher ups at PlayStation and seeing what they're doing, seeing the direction they're going in. Just not to have Bluepoint in it at all, and to just lay off a staff of 70 to 80 people and not having any type of accountability at this point. Like, there was a leak to Herman Holst written email to the first party studios at PlayStation. I'm not really sure if that's real or not, if it's AI, but it's hot off the presses. Bluepoint Games has been shuttered by PlayStation, and this just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know where we go from here. Like, what now? Like, what about the trilogy remake? I don't see Sony Santa Monica doing that in-house. And if they are doing it in-house, it's going to be the 2018 Ragnarok identity of over-the-shoulder sad dad simulator narrative type of thing. And that's not what I'm looking for that announcement. I was looking for a Bluepoint joint. I really was. I was hoping that those games get brought back and retain that classic arcadey fun formula that we all know and love. And so I'm a little disappointed, to say the least. I'm a little bit disappointed. Gosh, I don't know what to say anymore other than RIP Bluepoint. I'm sorry for everybody who's been affected. You guys did a great job at making shit, and I loved every single game that I've played in personally. I played the God of War collection on PS3. That was the way I played God of War 1 and 2. Freaking Eco and Shadow of the Colossus HD collection. I tried Shadow of the Colossus. I never tried Eco on PS3, but I didn't really get into it until the Shadow of the Colossus remake on PS4. I love that joint. Metal Gear Solid HD collection. I know that's a faithful recreation of those games. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Never played the Vita version, but I'm sure it's faithful. Titanfall on Xbox 360. That game was probably playable, which is kind of crazy because that was the Xbox One, Xbox 360 like cross-gen, kind of like a Breath of the Wild sort of thing where it releases on the last platform, but also in the new one with Wii U and Switch. But I'm sure that Bluepoint made a serviceable version of Titanfall on Xbox 360. Let me know if you played that version and how they did, but I'm not really sure. They made the port for Flower on PS4 and Vita, which is, people love Flower, so I'm pretty sure those people who love it have played it on PS4 and Vita and don't find any striking differences from the PS3 original. Gravity Rush, I freaking adore on PS4. I think it's Gravity Rush Remastered, as they like to call it, on PS4, and I give them full credit on naming it that because for people who don't know, Gravity Rush was a PS Vita, not launch title maybe, but it was a PS Vita exclusive at the time, and that game has a ton of character. It's kind of like an open world, obviously in the name Gravity based. It's kind of like a superhero action collectathon game. I don't even know how to explain it. I love Gravity Rush, and the PS4 remaster is the way I thoroughly enjoyed that game. I touched it on my brother's Vita when he had it, and I was like, whoa, this game's really cool. It's got a lot of swag. The soundtrack's awesome. There's the main pro tag is named Kat, and she has a galaxy coded cat. I forgot the name of that, but damn, I'm getting a FaceTime from my girlfriend. Not right now, babe. But yeah, that was a faithful remake of the game, or remaster of Gravity Rush, and just the Nathan Drake collection. That's the way I played Nathan. That's the way I played Uncharted on PS4. So Bluepoint will be missed. I'm really bummed about this. What do you guys think, though? Sound off in the comments. Did you play Bluepoint Games? And what do you think about them being closed by PlayStation? What also do you think about this live service push? Because I know this has a lot to do with why they are closing the studio down. Obviously, the God of War live service title wasn't announced, but it was canceled. And so whatever they were trying to do from that point on to now didn't work. And so I don't know. With the announcement of Horizon's Hunter Gathering, also that live service game is going to be pushed for, I think it was next year. I'm not really sure, but most of the people at Guerrilla Games is working on that game instead of a Horizon 3 sounding off that trilogy. This is going to be a live service spin-off. We'll see, man. I don't know if it's going to deliver. I don't know if PlayStation knows what they're doing right now. I'm kind of like raising my eyebrow like The Rock in wrestling at these pushes. And another thing too, Bluepoint Games is being shuttered, but can this has to come into the question of like other PlayStation studio first party studios that are still with PlayStation and that haven't produced in a while, compared to Bluepoint Games, which gave PS5 one of their best games to date, and it was at the PlayStation 5 launch with Demon's Souls. Video development studios like Media Molecule. What about Haven Studios? The people who are making another live service shooter with fair games that we haven't seen in years. I'm sure there's more studios out there, but those two come to mind immediately. Instead of Bluepoint Games, one of their top tier, I'd give them A tier PlayStation studios. I'm confused, to say the least. What about y'all though? I keep trying to outro the video, but I still got more to say, and we'll see how this will unfold in the weeks to come. But for now, I'm confused and I'm disappointed. What about you though? Well, I think that's gonna wrap this thing up. Until the next Merely Marco's video, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace. Thanks for watching. I love you. Goodbye.